Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're taking this incredible journey through time to uncover the hidden machinery behind the music we all listen to and love. We're going to break down the 5 distinct eras of music, framing our journey from ancient Greek gig economies all the way up to today's billion-dollar digital music empires. But specifically today, we're going to focus on the wild origins of how musicians finally broke free from kings and courts to actually make a living. If you've ever wondered how the business of music evolved into what it is today, well, you are definitely in the right place.
To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to ground ourselves in the primary source for today's explainer, which is Peter Chmuck's absolutely brilliant book, The Economics of Music, 2nd edition. This text completely breaks down the global music industry, looking at the business models, the history, and the unique economic rules that drive the whole machine today.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The modern music economy. 2. Inside the music industry. 3. The 5 eras of music. 4. The era of patronage. 5. The first music entrepreneurs. And 6. Birth of music publishing.
Section 1. The modern music economy.
Before we time travel, let's just look at the sheer scale of the business right now. Get this, when looking at the UK music workforce, a staggering 73% are actually creatives. We're talking musicians, composers, songwriters, lyricists. That is over 139,000 people. It really proves that the music economy is not just, a handful of famous pop stars walking a red carpet. It's made up of hundreds of thousands of active, everyday jobs. Live music comes in second at 16%, showing just how absolutely crucial getting up on a stage is to the workforce.
And the financial stakes? They're astronomical. When we look at 2 major European markets, the UK and Germany, the numbers are just huge. The UK music industry generated £5.2 billion in gross value added to their national economy back in 2018, and the German music industry contributed €3.9 billion a few years prior to that. So we're talking about highly significant contributions to national GDPs, employing hundreds of thousands of people across the board.
Section 2. Inside the music industry.
So how exactly is this massive value generated? Well, the really crucial point here is understanding that the music industry isn't just one big monolith. It actually operates like a giant puzzle, a closely linked network of 3 core sectors: the recording industry, music publishing, and the live music sector. And these 3 rely heavily on each other. A recording music company usually unites recording and publishing, because recording obviously relies on publishing copyrights. Meanwhile, live shows serve as the most important revenue source for musicians while simultaneously fueling recorded music sales. They are totally complementary goods.
But how do you actually connect the artist making the music to the business that's using it? To tie it all together, we have collecting societies. These are institutional bodies like performance rights organizations that serve as the vital financial link. They administer the rights of the creators and then license that music out to commercial users, whether that's a local radio station, a bar downtown, or a massive television network. They are the ones ensuring the gears keep turning and the money actually flows back to the creators.
Section 3. The 5 eras of music. All right, so we know how it works today, but what exactly is the historical roadmap here? Well, it breaks down into 5 distinct eras. We kick things off with the era of patronage, running from ancient times straight through to the 18th century. Then, the era of music publishing takes over until the 1920s, which is then replaced by broadcasting up to the 1950s. After that, we hit the golden age of recorded music leading up to the year 2000, which finally dropped us right into the digital music economy we're all living in today. For the rest of our time together, we're really going to focus on that fascinating transition out of the very first era.
Section 4. The era of patronage.
To really see how we got here, we literally have to go all the way back to the ancients. It's crazy to think about, but music was an economic good long before Thomas Edison invented the phonograph. Take the ancient Greek poet Pindar back in the 5th century BCE. The guy wasn't just sitting under an olive tree writing poems for fun. He was a highly demanded freelancer. He sent 470 lyrics to Sicily, he choreographed dances, and was commissioned to stage performances all over ancient Greece. He was essentially an early music entrepreneur, working directly for wealthy and powerful patrons.
But as you might guess, this patronage system had some massive drawbacks. Fast forward to the 18th century and listen to this actual quote from Clause 4 of the legendary composer Joseph Haydn's employment contract. Get this, he was forced to hand over his compositions for the exclusive use of His Highness. He couldn't share them, he couldn't copy them, or even write for anyone else without asking first. The guy literally had to wait in the prince's antechamber every single day just to receive his musical orders. It just brilliantly illustrates how creatively and economically restrictive royal patronage really was for these artists.
Section 5. The first music entrepreneurs.
Eventually, artists and organizers just got sick of waiting around in those antechambers. They wanted out, and they began breaking free from the courts. The contrast here is just huge. In 1637, the very first public opera house opened in Venice, and we saw this massive shift from the bureaucratic, noble-funded court operas straight into commercial operas. These were profit-oriented, touring productions run by impresarios who personally took on all the financial risks. They went out, raised the money, hired the singers, and competed fiercely for audiences. And hey, that fierce competition meant a massive payday for the absolute best talent. To put this commercial boom into a bit of perspective for you, a top castrati singer, the historical singers who actually underwent surgery to keep those exceptionally high voices, could earn 35 times the annual wage of an English building craftsman in just a single season. I mean, no way, right? The free market was suddenly stepping up and creating the very first musical superstars.
You can actually look at historical absolute legends like George Friedrich Handel through this exact lens, essentially as an early startup founder. Seriously, he started out as a municipal court employee, but moved to London to freelance. He became a musical director and then formed a privately financed opera company. He rode a brutal financial roller coaster, constantly dealing with rival companies poaching his best singers before eventually finding massive wealth by pivoting to stage oratorios. And this entrepreneurial fire really started spreading beyond just opera. In 1765, Carl Friedrich Abel and Johann Christian Bach laid out the exact blueprint for the modern concert business. They organized the Bach-Abel concerts in London. These were subscription-financed live instrumental performances where the organizers took on the financial risk themselves. And even though it actually ended in their financial ruin, it proved once and for all that the commercial live music model was viable and set the stage for modern touring.
Section 6. Birth of Music Publishing.
That commercial boom leads us right into the transition into the second era of music, where early tech completely changed the game. It created this massive demand for printed music. Johannes Gutenberg's invention of the movable type printing press eventually transformed music from a localized, handwritten craft into a mass-produced industry. Pioneers like Ottaviano Petrucci in Venice were among the very first to figure out how to produce considerable numbers of musical copies, making the music itself a highly scalable product.
But as you can imagine, with mass production comes mass theft. Music piracy is actually centuries old. Printers were suddenly facing this huge threat of cheap, unauthorized reprints of their sheet music. So to combat this, sovereigns in places like the German Empire stepped in and granted monopolistic privileges to the printers. These early royal decrees let them confiscate pirated editions and penalize the thieves. It's super interesting because these were essentially the very first iterations of copyright protection, laying down the legal foundation for the entire modern publishing industry.
And that brings us perfectly full circle back to today. As we look back on this crazy evolution, from strict royal patrons to Wild West entrepreneurs to legal copyright protections across these 5 eras of music, we land right back in our current digital music economy. But considering the massive tech platforms and algorithms that control the distribution and monetization of music right now, it leaves us with a pretty provocative question to take away. Have we truly evolved past that first era, or have we simply returned to a new era of patronage where the tech giants are the new royalty? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.